Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're looking at a truly fascinating and honestly kind of mind-blowing psychological concept. You know what's strange? Some of the absolute most perceptive, emotionally intelligent people you will ever meet didn't get that way by reading textbooks. They didn't sit in classrooms or spend years practicing meditation. Nope. They developed these incredible abilities because, at some point in their lives, they literally had to. Their intelligence was forged out of sheer, absolute necessity.
I mean, think about it for a second. Why are some people just naturally hyperperceptive? Well, for a very specific group of people, their nervous system was trained, not by choice, obviously, but by their circumstances, to rapidly read rooms, predict shifting moods, and think like 5 steps ahead. And why? Just to feel safe. Psychologists are now calling this whole phenomenon traumatic intelligence, and exploring exactly how the brain adapts to that kind of early unpredictability is what we're going to unpack today.
We constantly hear about how trauma wounds people, right? And yeah, that is absolutely true. But research in developmental psychology points out this wild paradox. In many cases, trauma also sharpens them. When kids grow up in unpredictable or super emotionally complex environments, their brains, specifically the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, are physically wired early on to detect subtle signals that most of us completely miss. It's basically a survival upgrade. Which brings us to our formal definition for today: traumatic intelligence. This is an invisible, deep cognitive and emotional adaptation forged by early adversity to ensure safety. It's absolutely crucial that we ground ourselves in the science here. The traits we're about to explore, they are not just weaknesses dressed up as strengths. Actually, scratch that. They are genuine, remarkable adaptations of the human brain. It's a form of intelligence that looks completely invisible from the outside, but runs incredibly deep. Okay, section 1, deep empathy and perception. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly picked up on a hidden tension or a tiny microexpression before anyone even opened their mouth? It feels kind of like mystical intuition, doesn't it? But it's not. It is highly advanced pattern recognition. Your brain was literally trained from a young age to constantly scan your environment for emotional data. Because, at some point in your past, that hypervigilant scanning is exactly what kept you safe. So, the crucial point here is that this scanning evolves into something known as hyper-empathy. You aren't just noticing other people, you're deeply, profoundly attuned to their emotional states, often before they even process it themselves. If you grew up needing to track the unpredictable moods of caregivers, you simply had to learn to feel other people's struggles instantly. Your environment absolutely demanded it. And because of that hyper-empathy, you tend to develop some pretty specific habits. You might catch yourself compulsively analyzing human behavior, constantly replaying conversations in your head, or digging around for a hidden meaning that other people wouldn't even register. You are effectively forced into being a lifelong student of human nature, because historically, understanding unpredictable people was a matter of survival. Moving right along to section 2, thriving in chaos and pressure. Ever notice that when everything completely falls apart around you, something inside you goes incredibly calm and intensely strategic? You don't freeze up, you just adapt. Researchers call this incredible mental rewiring stress inoculation. Your brain is literally better calibrated to manage high-stakes situations because, well, for a long time, high-stakes situations were just your normal everyday baseline. Think about the difference in a crisis. While a lot of people might freeze up and wait for someone to come rescue them, someone operating with traumatic intelligence quietly and independently starts building solutions. This highly developed self-reliance is a direct product of growing up in an unsupportive environment. Dependence just felt way too risky. So, what happens? Competence becomes your absolute default setting. This profound internalization of resourcefulness usually surprises the people around you. But when you step back and look at the developmental history of the brain and what it had to do to survive, it makes complete, undeniable sense. Let's slow things down a bit for section 3. The hidden inner world. People with this kind of intelligence feel things so much more intensely than the rest of the world seems to. Like, injustice bothers you on a totally visceral level. And on the flip side, even a really simple, kind gesture from a stranger can genuinely move you to your core. This happens because repeated emotional activation early in life leaves you with a highly sensitized amygdala. You don't just observe the world, guys. You feel it at a frequency most people literally don't have access to. Now, what's really interesting here is how this totally reframes trust. If you have traumatic intelligence, you probably struggle to trust people easily. Your threshold is just way higher than average.
But cognitive psychologists call this adaptive skepticism. Your brain learned early on that not all signals of safety were genuine, so it built incredibly strong filters. It's not a flaw. It actually ensures that the connections you do manage to form are incredibly honest and unusually resilient.
It's absolutely essential that we separate these two concepts. This isn't just everyday cynicism or being a bitter person. Cynicism is just a generalized negative outlook on everything. Adaptive skepticism, on the other hand, is a highly calibrated psychological brain response designed to protect you from disingenuous people. It's an active, protective intelligence, and realizing that is a real game changer. But because your brain is so highly calibrated to protect you, we hit this really tough reality. Slowing down can literally feel unsafe. Your nervous system has been conditioned to stay on high alert at all times. So when things finally do get quiet, rest and stillness can feel incredibly jarring. When the world gets quiet, the mind wanders inward. And let's be honest, it's not always a gentle place. Here is the great paradox. The very intelligence that trauma built requires active, intentional effort to unwind. Learning how to actually rest is itself a kind of reclaiming. It's the conscious act of finally telling your brain, hey, it's okay. The threat has passed. Which brings us to our final section, number 4, post-traumatic growth and wisdom. Psychologists Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Colquhoun have studied this extensively. They found that a significant portion of people who navigate severe adversity actually emerge with a much deeper philosophical clarity about what truly matters in life. When you've had to look so closely at pain, your own and other people's, something inside you just refuses to let it be meaningless. This grants you a profound wisdom much earlier in life than most people ever get to experience. Now, let me be super clear about this. We are definitely not throwing a party for trauma or ignoring the deep pain that created it. The sharpness you gained was real, but man, so is the cost. What psychology invites us to understand, though, is that the human brain isn't just simply damaged by hardship. It is in very specific, highly measurable ways completely transformed by it. The perceptiveness you carry, the unbelievable empathy you extend to others, the way you systematically analyze the world around you, these aren't just random coincidences. They are the architecture of a mind that had to grow quickly and did. It's literally the architecture of survival. Which leaves us with this final, really vital question. The question isn't how you've got here. The real question is, what are you going to choose to do with the powerful, remarkably adapted intelligence you've built along the way? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I genuinely hope this gives you a completely new, empowering perspective on the incredible resilience of the human mind. See you next time.